Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session, Ditch the Spreadsheets. I'd like to thank you for joining us. Today we're going to tell the story of what one of our clients did to streamline their processes to better manage controlled documents and go paperless. But first, just a warning. Throughout the presentation, we'll be polling the audience. We'll make the aggregate results available to you, and even better, as we continue to have other speaking events, we'll continue to aggregate those results and share them with you. So my name is Sean Fitzpatrick. I'm one of the principals at RKO Business Solutions. Our company is focused entirely on enterprise content records management, or also known as ECM. My first introduction to this space was in 1998 with a document control at a major utility. Over the last 18 years, I've been a part of or led similar projects within utilities, energy, pipelines, and manufacturing on various ECM platforms. More importantly, today we're here to tell the story of a highly regulated client. It transformed from manual processes managed by spreadsheet to an end-to-end, streamlined, single-platform, paperless solution. As part of our professional service agreement with this client, I'm unable to disclose their name publicly, but what I can disclose is they're active across North America. They're involved in numerous sectors of the energy industry, run about $10 billion in revenue across approximately $60 billion in assets, and about 6,000 employees, and of course are heavily regulated across numerous districts as a result. The client had a few factors driving them to make some changes in how they manage controlled documents, which included policies, standards, operating procedures, work instructions, forms, templates, and other critical content. At the time, the organization was revamping aspects of their quality program. This also included selecting a technology to manage the documents and conducting a major review and refresh their standards across the company. As a result, they started with standards. They wanted the outcome, though, to have business processes in place, automated as much as possible to ensure their controlled documents were continuously reviewed on a scheduled basis, meeting all compliance requirements. So at this point, we're going to have our first poll. So the first poll question is, what are the biggest pain points for your program? And go ahead and select all that apply. We'll move on now to the next slide. Overall, the client was successfully achieving compliance in managing their controlled documents. They had to. The key challenge, though, was when authoring new standards and revising standards was the cumbersome and time-consuming processes which resulted in extra work and burden for both doc control staff and stakeholders who needed to author, provide feedback, review, and approve the new content. So in this section, we're going to look at the key reasons, impact, and cost associated with the challenges. Let's start with the reasons. At a high level, the existing process consisted of around 24 steps and decision points. This diagram is a summary of those steps. So not all 24 are included here, but I've kind of summarized them for ease of viewing. The process kicked off by downloading and manually completing a 3-page form and emailing it to the appropriate person. Users found these templates had too many fields, and many were not immediately relevant until later on in the process anyway. Also, they contained too much text and were therefore difficult to use. From there, the process involved pulling content from the ECM system, authoring it within SharePoint, using email for routing for review and feedback. And then the process completed by printing the document for wet signature, scanning it back in, and then posting it back into the ECM before sending email notifications. So you can see there's a lot of steps to the process, a lot of manual steps, dealing with a lot of different systems. The authoring, review, and feedback process was also a challenge and found to be inconsistent and based on an individual's preference, really, which of course is not uncommon, but manually using spreadsheets then to track that progress is very difficult, particularly when trying to determine which stakeholders reviewed and provided feedback and when. So once the authoring and review process began, it was a bit of a black box and very difficult to track and enforce timelines, causing a huge lack of accountability and increased doc control labor. Driving users to be in and out of multiple non-integrated systems caused further resistance. So already very busy people, such as our engineers, were declaring that the process was just too much work. Nevertheless, it still had to be done. So as we know, compliance with regulatory requirements are just not optional. So regardless if the process was too much work, too cumbersome and tedious, it has to be done. The result, though, is a bigger document control team to push through the workload. And that's the big impact, or one of the big impacts. Doc control felt they were too involved throughout the process, particularly around poking and prodding people to complete their work on time, formatting, conducting rework, whereas ideally they could be doing more value-add work for the company, such as driving better reporting, insights and decision-making, process streamlining, proactive corrections, better training, etc. However, even more affected were the engineers, the SMEs, and the stakeholders involved in the process. So these folks were asking for an easier process to assign and collect feedback and remove the amount of admin work that was necessary to make these changes, involve others, track the progress, and retain the information necessary to support audits and regulatory requirements. Remember, all this is happening in different systems and primarily communicated through email. In the end, the quality management director was accountable to a VP for not only meeting compliance successfully, but doing it in an efficient manner that minimized the impact on the company's core business. So let's take a break here for a moment, and again, let's take another look at a poll. Do you use manual processes to track controlled content today? So what we mean by this is, are you using spreadsheets? Are you printing a lot of paper? Are you using physical wet signatures? Are you using email a lot to route things around? So actually we're going to do a double header here, and we're going to put up another poll, poll number 3, because they're closely related. So how much time do you actually spend doing these types of processes, whether they're manual or automated or fully electronic? So moving on. Again, while the client was meeting their compliance requirements, the cost of the tedious administrative work was high, not only for the extra employees and contractors assigned to the work in doc control, at one point as many as 20 people, but the bigger cost of interruption to the day-to-day work of the engineering staff and associated stakeholders was more impactful. So overall, it was difficult to get insight on who was reviewing what and by when, which not only required lots of labor, but generated a possible accountability gap, as we had already mentioned. In addition, there was risk that proper due diligence around the management of change around these documents may get missed. This could potentially cost the money in unexpected ways. For example, if a change was made to a controlled document and the training impact was not fully assessed, the result could require many more people to be trained on the new document than expected. The cost to implement the change would unexpectedly go up, likely impacting the timeline, and while just not a good way to conduct business, it's also not a good way to set expectations with your boss. So finally, some of the enterprise ECM technologies at play were not being used to their greatest potential. And frankly, some were coming to their end of life and would need to be changed. Anyway, in the previous system, the documents were born and published digitally, but signed paper originals were also kept. As a result of growth, acquisitions, workforce turnover, various siloed technologies at play, the review, authoring, and approval processes evolved into more manual processes, primarily tracked by individuals using spreadsheets. This becomes very expensive, particularly when scaled to thousands of controlled documents and hundreds of people. So let's do one more poll. What's the biggest challenge you face with controlled documents today after taking into account cost? As with most solutions, it begins with people. The core team at the client, from the VP executive level down to the PM, the project manager, were committed to completing the project and achieving results. So as with any project, strong leadership and a strong core team dedicated to hard work and success will find ways to overcome any kind of challenges. An example was the changeover of staff within the client's business team. For various reasons, in doc control and on the support team during the project, a number of people changed roles, causing potential delays in our progress while new people came up to speed. This was minimized by our overall approach. So I want to talk a little bit about our approach and how I feel we were successful. The project approach and methodology used was rapid and agile, consisting of a series of 2-week sprints where the core team interacted daily with the business and would receive instant feedback. This allowed our team to rapidly gather high-level requirements, prototype a solution, review with the team, and then iteratively refine based on feedback. We felt this was more efficient and matched the culture of the team. Although this mitigated our risks and controlled scopes that the project came in within the time frame and budget allowed by the business, based on our past experiences, we consistently find it's easier for the business to be editors versus creators. So this is a key point in our approach. In this project, it was important to have a tenacious and driving project manager as well. If people challenges arose, the project manager was politically able to maneuver the project forward. I'd consider this was a key success factor, not only in our project, but in any of these types of projects, since the scope of stakeholders can span so many different departments and can cross so many different political lines. As you recall, the key challenge for the client was cumbersome and time-consuming processes, along with multiple silos of technology. The overall goal was to make the process easier all the way, driving 3 outcomes from the successfully transformed business processes. Get to a paperless situation, streamline forms and processes, keep it simple but compliant. The client leadership in this project was unwavering in their desire to provide a paperless solution. This was the guiding principle from day one and drove many of the scope decisions that were encountered. It allowed us to maximize our opportunities to streamline and automate the whole process. So besides all of that, it's pretty sexy to be paperless and something really worth showcasing. Glitter aside, productivity gains are also critical business outcome. So our approach was pragmatic to automate wherever possible, but only where it made financial sense. Many organizations start down this process and end up automating because they can, and they don't think it through pragmatically enough. But it's important, I think, to take a real dollars and cents view and ensure the investment provides tangible business value. Only do it if there's a clear ROI. The approach started with having a key person in the business redraw a streamlined process and workflow for the team to work from. The finalized output from any process had to be compliant, but we always started as simple and basic as possible. So as we proceeded through our iterations and sprints, the business would see an initial baseline process and then provide their feedback. After some quick analysis and dialogue, the business could justify then the value of either added steps, alternate flows, and either more sophistication and automation was added to the process, or possibly complexities and steps were removed to make it even more simple. After a short while, the team got into a really good rhythm and flow. On the screen is a process diagram summarizing the key steps of this new process. Forms went from downloading a 3-page, hard-to-read Word form to a single half-page form, dynamically built out based on user input, as the form and its data automatically carried through the workflow. The workflow itself was more logically organized, with the no-value manual steps being automated or eliminated. At a high level, the process broke down into a quick initial assessment of the request by doc control, kind of like a mini MOC, then sent along to the owner of the document for request, review, and approval. Requests can be queued for a future date, or if the request was approved, the process proceeded to authoring, review, and stakeholder feedback. The final document is digitally signed off and published to the user portal. So at any point in the life cycle of any given revision, doc control and QA can run reports to track and manage the overall process workload, where the document is in the process, or any of these factors. So overall, this approach helped us to achieve our goal of making the process easier and really requiring minimal training by end users. From a technology perspective, the vision of the paperless process helped to drive a single end-to-end integrated system that started with a simple and easy-to-use electronic form, to final posting on the ECM for search and consumption by end users. So this now allowed for a single integrated place for all roles to consume, request changes, request variances, manage workloads, collaborate, provide feedback, review, approve, and distribute the standards. With all data aggregated into one source, the client is now able to generate reports that allow document control to more easily plan and manage what was coming up for review in the next, let's say, 30, 60, 90 days, or what was currently in the queue and possibly overdue, and then load balance the queue by reassigning work as appropriate. In addition, a fully integrated end-to-end system provides the client with a single view into the entire life cycle and history of each document. So last but not least, to achieve the paperless vision, the solution needed a way for professional engineers to authenticate and digitally sign off and apply their engineering stamp to qualified documents. To accomplish this, the solution leveraged the program through APEG. These folks have authorized notorious software to issue official digital stamps and seals. So the process to digitally sign documents is integrated directly into the solution and removes the need to print for wet signatures and removes the need to then store the paper original. So overall, the mission was pretty much accomplished on what was set out to do and what the director of QA was looking to accomplish as well. So let's take another quick pause here and do one more poll. So our fifth poll, have you ever heard of paperless QA? Perfect. So important to any project of this nature is realizing the outcomes. We learned many lessons from the project, but if I was to pick 3 key factors that I feel contributed most to the success of our project, or the project, are the 3 displayed on the screen right now. The support and vision from the executives team is what really drove the project from initiation to conclusion. So their desire to streamline the process and get to a paperless situation gave us the marching orders to go deliver it. They also supplied the money, so that helped a bit too. Trying to achieve all the requiring multiple platforms would have been just too costly and too time-consuming. So having all the components as part of a single platform allowed the solution to flow smoothly and provide the data needed for process and compliance reporting. Finally, it goes without saying that without the team we had in place, the delivery of the solution on time and on budget would not have been possible. Business outcomes are really why we do this. So the final solution provided all the key functions the client was looking for. But more importantly is driving the value they envisioned where the compliance is being met, but in a more efficient manner where doc control is able to take on more work and more value-add work. Valuable engineering time is minimized, paper is saved, and filing space can eventually be recovered. More insights are also available in the process, allowing for future enhancements, and teams are now able to respond to audits much more quickly and thoroughly with a complete history at their fingertips. What's in store for the future? Currently, some further streamlining and enhancements around the variance request process. This is work in progress. As this completes, the new process will settle out. The organization will then look to convert other types of controlled documents, such as standard operating procedures, to the new system. The solution will also serve as a showcase for other groups interested in automating managing document-centric workflows across the organization, leveraging the baseline investment. So our presentation is shortly coming to a close. So firstly, I'd like to do a quick commercial and then open the lines for questions and answers. As stated earlier, I'm one of the principals of RKO Business Solutions. In addition to ECM consulting, RKO pre-packages solutions and delivers them either on-premise or via fully managed cloud models. One of our solutions, Critical Content, is really all about making document control easier. So we hope you come check us out, and you can check out our website. Also keep in mind that as we do other speaking events and other webinars, we're going to be asking similar questions or the same questions, and so we will begin to aggregate all of those results as well, and so you'll start to see a bigger picture of what your peers in the industry and around North America are doing around quality assurance, document control practices, and quality assurance. I'd really like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today, and appreciate your time and look forward to speaking with you on a future event or a future webinar. Keep in mind, Wednesday, May the 18th, we'll be doing another in this series. That's how to create and retain critical IP from a retiring workforce. please jump to our website, versafile.com/news to register. And hopefully we'll see you then. Thank you.